I was just wondering, is anybody out there interested in the future of rural America? Oh, okay. Good, I got the right place. Listen, that wasn't just a trick, to see if everybody's awake. It's sort of setting a tone here. We really want this to be an interactive day. We're all learning together. Some of us are up on the podium and sitting in these comfortable, relaxed living room chairs. We just want it to be like old folks today, okay?
What kind of programs are you thinking about for the future so that once those kids graduate from college, they come back and serve your area so that you can hang on to that? I know that's a complaint across the country that our youth, we send them off to college and then they move to San Francisco, Chicago, New York.
Regional competitiveness paradigm, again, is moving in your direction because cultural and heritage amenities are assets. And how we use them in an economic development sense is both innovative and crucial.
We at Neighborworks America are taking our turn today in what is turning out to be a very exciting series of dialogues that are taking place all over this country, and frankly, when I listen to Mark, all over the world.
Why is regional competitiveness so critical as this framing paradigm? First, globalization is not going to come to an end. We are not going to stop the merry-go-round and get off. The question is, if globalization continues, how do we make the most of it? When you look at where the growth is happening, very few of them are rural. Now, one of the things that tells me is that to be competitive in today's global economy, you got to have critical mass. And this goes to one of the core features of today's programs, partnership. Community development is the forerunner to economic development. And how we create the capacity in rural regions to build effective competitiveness strategies is a crucial issue. Instead of doing what you're already doing better, is there a better thing to do? And innovation and entrepreneurship, in my opinion, have become the new hallmarks of competitive regions.
In a way, the nonprofit world, in my mind, has been, intentional or not, has been the laboratory of how we improve local communities. I suspect most of the organizations in this room were created to serve a community that without that support is probably not served. It's also important to remember why our community created our organizations.
We work with people, we don't work for them. We recognize that we all have strengths and that we all have a voice and that we all have stories. At the same time, we know that we have challenges, but that together we can realize the power within us to address those challenges and to challenge those institutions and structures that have not worked for our community.
They called their state representative, who then apparently called the search committee or somebody on the board and said, now we'll meet either up there or we'll meet down here in my office, but we want a community person on that search committee. And they got it, and then they selected someone who would make an outreach into the community, and he's been there, I think, 3 years. He has done a terrific job. They now have a center for rural California, Policy Center for Rural California, plus a few other things. But it was also that action by the community, a group in the community in those four counties up there that said, we want to be part of this.
You really have to be of the mind that you don't care who gets the credit. It just has to happen. And you know, we found ourselves in a much more powerful position because of that.
Meanwhile, regional competitiveness has no policy home in Washington yet. To do that, I think, requires institutional innovation. Will that change? And if so, how? I would suggest to you today the answer lies partly in this room.
The people that need to hear this are the people at the federal level, and like the doctor's code, first they could possibly take their first policy-making framework be around first do no harm. Let the local governments, you know, practice common sense.
How do we make the government institutions more entrepreneurial? We have a huge wellspring of entrepreneurship in our community. We're trying really hard to get funding for those people in various ways. We've also got a good education system where we are, and we're close to community colleges, but we're ignored.
You have to try and understand the dynamics of the politics in your community as soon as possible, and make that a part of how you're going to do something, because it will be an obstacle, and it is a formidable one, because in economically depressed areas, politics is the business. And that's why a lot of the communities that we live in, and I live in, nothing ever happens.
Our first big project was renovating our park, in which we all came to and we were like, what's going on with our community? What's something that we all like to be seen as to we can change? So we went back to the city and we told them, look, we have money. Can we do this with a park? They said no. We're like, we'll match it. They said no. And we're still in the process because it's a city and politics is very, you know.
Education is the key to making sure that you can provide for your family. Education is the key to making sure that you're invested in your community. We've always seen our students as the greatest asset in our community, and you know, we've focused on creating within them that sense of identity where they know who they are, they know their place within their community.
We've probably graduated a number of kids that have gone to college and now are back providing services in the school systems, but coming back to the youth center and helping furl out to serve, you know, the other kids that are coming through.
I think that what you guys are talking about as far as empowering the youth to really take a hold of their future is critical, and it makes sense to everybody, I think, to do that. But I think that one of the strongest drives to bring them back into the community, because if you empower them, you're like, oh, are we going to empower them for the next New York position?
And I would always remember saying that I want to leave this place. I want to leave, and I don't want to come back anymore, because, man, it's like I want to experience a new world, and I want to go, and I just want to leave everything behind. But not realizing that this place has made me, where I was, you know, raised. It's my roots. This is where I come from. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be the person that I am now.
And so I think it's really important to remember that the networking at the high school level, and even middle school and elementary, that they have that firmly in their essence before they leave, because then that will draw them back.
I think once you get this nucleus of people who have these kind of experiences and care about them, then they begin to really be entrepreneurs in a very special kind of way.
Anybody experienced NIMBYism anywhere?
There's a lot of fear at first, but once you come in with a decent design, the NIMBYism goes away very quickly. We have found that to be very effective with putting affordable housing into conventional subdivisions.
You know, I think there's still this myth in the affordable housing world, or this type of housing, that you can't have quality, you can't have good design, and affordability. You know, projects like this kind of destroy that myth.
So often, kids from disadvantaged places in the world get substandard house. What we're really trying to do with our young people who come to live with us is to help them find a sense of importance and a sense of belonging, a sense of community, as it were. We're really talking about sustainable culture for our kids to be able to embody and incorporate some of the notions about taking care of each other, learning to be generous, learning to be independent, developing some leadership skills.
The trouble is mobile homes aren't mobile anymore. Only 1% of mobile homes or manufactured homes, HUD code homes, ever move from the site that they were originally set on. Yet, it's increasingly, people are recognizing a vital source of affordable housing. The New Hampshire Community Loan Fund's work over the last 22 years has been to stand shoulder to shoulder with homeowners to help them buy the land beneath their homes so they become landowners in addition to homeowners.
In a 1-hour meeting, they approved the entire loan to us for $2.1 million. And without the help of the partners, this certainly wouldn't have been anything that could have possibly happened. And sure enough, Friday morning, our attorney got a phone call stating that Park owner has a buyer. They have a scheduled closing for Monday afternoon. If the co-op can do the same, we'll close with them. And guess what? We closed.
But it's working. There's houses being built on the Crow Reservation as we speak for tribal people that deserve access to traditional credit.
Our nation and a lot of other nations throughout the United States, they don't have no law. There's no policy. There's no procedure. There's no codes. Based on that, we're a third world country that can't move forward. U.S. Attorney under the Bill Clinton administration who drafted up this foreclosure law, she would explain in the English language what something meant. And I would sit there and explain in the Crow language what I thought it meant in the Crow language. If I did not speak the Crow language, we probably would not have no more homes yet today.
I don't know, I was trying to think, for myself about what all these stories mean and how they relate to new regionalism and the sort of ideal model that we heard. And one thought, just to get things going here, in a lot of cases, whether we're down in the Delta, where there's some real pent-up inequities, and organizing and building political power and addressing needs in that fashion seem to be the order of the day and perhaps the first leg of that stool. And everywhere we're hearing, whether it's an environmental conflict or a policy issue, or in the case of Toccoa, where it was really important to start seeing and marking success with at-risk youth, to be able to dignify their lives and their challenges with a well-designed space. So I think we're hearing elements that start, and maybe if we could combine a lot of them, we could form a very successful region a la the model that we heard.
I think that one of the threads that tie all of these case studies together is the cultural appropriateness of the development strategies that are being used within the communities. They are looking at the value systems, and they are respecting those value systems, and those are what holds our community together. If we don't respect those in our new regionalism or in our development efforts, we're going to destroy the fabric of rural America.
I think all of us need to start saying something about the fact, when we're hearing, just as everybody's just common talk these days, how bad government is, that we need to begin to say that we have to have a good balance between the private sector and the public sector if we're going to do any of the kinds of things we're talking about. We cannot have the kind of public-private partnerships unless both are respected.
I have a right to own a home. I have a right to be part of the American dream that everybody else is a part of. I have a right for that.